everyone, it's Kim Bopney, the Vagina Coach, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the EPI-NO today when you're using it for a second time birth. So a very common question I have is, will this help prevent tearing or help me in my birth if I had tearing in my first one? So the answer is yes, and it can be very helpful for people who've had any tearing or potentially an episiotomy and may have some scar tissue along their perineum, so in between the vagina and the anus, right along here, there can be, it's very common to have tearing, and thankfully episiotomy is not done super common anymore, but people can still experience that as well, and there's scar tissue left behind. So our body heals by forming adhesions, which is a natural, normal process, and we need that to happen. But what would be what's not ideal is when those adhesions get stuck and influence the tissues in negative ways, or maybe they adhere to things that they shouldn't be adhering to, and it can restrict mobility. So if you have had tearing and you do have some scar tissue and stuck adhesions, when you give birth next time, that tension and that sort of stuck area can also hinder the birth process as well. So manual perineal massage, pelvic floor physiotherapy, and a therapist who can do manual scar tissue massage is really, really important. And the EPI-NO can also be a helpful tool as well. So when you're using the EPI-NO, it is a silicone balloon, and it's inserted into the vagina, usually about that indentation, the halfway mark there. And a little bit of air is added. So if you're using it for Kegel exercises or your pelvic floor training, you just add a little bit of air to the point where you feel like you have something to squeeze against, and then when you contract and relax, you should be able to see on your gauge if the needle is moving up and then consequently back down. But when you're talking about scar tissue side, the Kegel exercise or the contraction relaxation portion is a piece of it, but it's more on working on the scar tissue aspect. So kind of that gradual stretch and that learning to yield, and the learning to yield is actually kind of a separate piece in a sense, but when you have that scar tissue there already, you're working on the mobilization of it really. So the balloon would be inserted at the halfway mark. Now you're adding air, you're not looking at the gauge, you're just adding air to your edge where you feel discomfort, and then you just hang out there, and the goal is to use that time, usually about 10 minutes or so, to allow the balloon to influence those tissues in a way that those adhesions start to mobilize a little, and there's more space and less tension in preparation for birth. So if you are using it for second time, or third or fourth, and you have had some tearing or an episiotomy before and have some resulting scar tissue, the EPI-NO can absolutely play a role in facilitating your upcoming birth. See you next time.